another edition of Washington General Hospital tomorrow. Do you like that, Congressman, or are
I
you
enjoy
sad?
that very much. It's funny.
Yeah. Okay.
Knowing Dennis as I do, it's pretty appropriate actually.
Well, we're equal opportunity fun makers, so you never know who's going to be next. If you're on the phone, we're just going to get to you. I just want to ask the Congressman one more question before
Sure.
I go back to the phones. Let's see. Jim, Doug, and Eric, you guys are next. So let me ask you a question. We were just briefly talking about a balanced budget. Why is that such an outrageous suggestion to some of those on the left?
Well, you've got to understand that if you're a liberal who believes in the power of government, and that power is always defined in how much you spend. And that money is power in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And if you limit how much money people can spend, it takes away their power. And, quite honestly, that's exactly what we've got to do is get the money out of Washington. We've got to get it into the hands of the citizens themselves. The larger, the more powerful Washington is, the weaker and less powerful the citizen is. And we've got to make sure that we change that. A way to do it is to have a balanced budget amendment so that you can actually have something that's enforceable as far as cutting spending and holding the line, getting some fiscal sanity in this country. And we've got to do it soon, Simon, or we're going to be in big trouble.
Believe me, I know. I mean, we've talked about it before because even the numbers that they're talking about, the president just yesterday was talking about this big $4 trillion number. It's a drop in the ocean. I mean, it's a literal drop in the ocean.
Well, if that were to happen in 10 years, that'd be great. We'd only be over about 21 trillion in debt rather than 25 trillion.
And you're not including the unfunded obligations. It's 120 trillion.
I've heard different figures, but I know last year, while we had a $1.5 trillion on budget deficit, we incurred another $5.2 trillion of unfunded liabilities with all the promises that were made.
That's right. Let me go to the phone. So many people want to talk to you. Jim, you are on the Simon Conway Show with the Congressman.
Hi, Simon. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Congressman Latham. I would wonder if you would call on President Obama on the biggest radio station in the state of Iowa to lift the ban on drilling offshore in the Gulf of Mexico. While at the same time, I would like your comment on what do you think of him going down to Brazil and giving them, $2 billion of our taxpayer money to have them drill for oil?
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, yes, I will go on the record anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's just on WHO or any place in the country and call the president to lift the ban or the moratorium on drilling. And we've got to do it offshore. We've got to do it onshore. If we ever want to actually, one of the solutions to our problems in the federal budget would be to have drilling, to have royalties flowing into the federal government to actually help us. We could balance the budget long term. There would be trillions of dollars of royalties that could come in if, in fact, we would drill on our own soil here, if we would go after the resources that we have in such great abundance today between natural gas and oil here. That is absolutely critical that we do it. The Brazilian thing, it is just outrageous. We're spending American dollars down there to drill offshore, and we can't drill on our own. I mean, it just makes no sense.
Almost the worst part of that trip was at the end of it, when he said, "And we're going to be your best customers."
Yeah, that's what we need is more foreign suppliers of energy. Why don't we have U.S. suppliers of energy in this country?
Exactly right. Let's go and take another call. Doug, you're on the Simon Conway Show with the Congressman. Hey, Doug.
Hi. I just wanted to mention that I'm one of the people that's not going to tone down the rhetoric, and I disagree quite strongly with Tom Latham.
Okay.
We, as you mentioned about unfunded liabilities and 100% of the GDP and so on and so forth, I'm a supporter of Ron Paul, and I think that when the house is on fire, you don't whisper to the people inside.
Okay,
all
right. Well, no speeches. You've made your point. Let the Congressman comment.
Doug, all I'm saying, we can have a very strong debate, make our points, be very strong in our feelings and our convictions, but you don't have to call somebody else a terrorist, or you don't have to make demean some other person personally to do it. I mean, this is a serious problem. The only way we're ever going to solve these things is to have an honest debate and have votes and have resolution to these problems. And it is just not constructive to call people names and try to vilify your opponent all the time. Let them do that themselves. I think if you're on the right track, if you're doing the right thing, you don't have to do that to other people.
Okay. Let me take another one real quick. Let's go to the other Jim that we had on hold. Hi, Jim.
Hello. Can
Hi.
you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Jim.
Yes. How are you today, Congressman?
Great.
Great. The reason I'm calling, I guess I am a conservative, and I do believe we have to get our spending certainly under control. I have no doubt about that. But the one thing that really bugs me is, and I hear this from both sides, everybody says we have to get spending under control, but if we can't cut Social Security, we can't touch Medicare, we can't cut interest in the debt, we can't cut defense, what's left?
All right, let's listen to the Congressman.
Yeah, Jim, I don't know if you had any other comment, but...
it's on hold. I can bring him back,
okay.
but we'll have to be
if
after
you
traffic.
Look, you draw a circle, have 2/3 of that circle, line it off, and that is interest on the debt, it is Social Security, it is Medicare, it is Medicaid, and other mandatory spending. 1/3 is discretionary. Right now, with a $3.8 trillion budget, with a $1.65 trillion annual deficit, you could do away with all of the discretionary spending and still be about $500 billion in deficit spending. So you're exactly right. Until we make what can be extremely modest modifications to programs in the mandatory spending part of the budget, today would have long-term actuarial effects that would be dramatic going out long-term, and we can finally get a handle on our budgets. But we cannot do it if people are going to throw grandma over the cliff if in fact you're doing things that don't affect grandma at all, but will actually save the system for the future.
Well, I think we need to embrace the principles of Lean Six Sigma, to be perfectly honest. And
that's my bill.
Mike George, I know. Mike George believes we can save $500 to $600 billion a year, which planned out over this magic 10 years is up to $6 trillion. The Congressional, not the Congressional Budget Office, the Government Accountability Office reckons there's $600 billion worth of waste, and I don't think they've even scratched the surface on the waste, because they certainly didn't include the shrimp on the treadmill in their calculations, which we need to get rid of all that kind of garbage. And I do believe, Congressman, that we need to turn around to people who are 30 or 35, pick your number, and say, I am sorry, there will be no Social Security for you. You've got 30 years to make other arrangements. I really think we have to go there. And if you're on the phone, Ron, Eric, you guys are next. And Jim, we're going to talk to you in the break and see if you had a second point. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just put you on hold. And we'll have more with Congressman Tom Latham on the Simon Conway Show. This is News Radio 1040 WHO. We are live in the Crystal Studio at the Iowa State Fair with people looking at us through the glass, and you're welcome to come on by and see us at the Crystal Studio. In the studio with me is Congressman Tom Latham, and thank you for still being here, sir. And on the phone, next we're going to go to Ron. Hi, Ron. You're on the Simon Conway Show.
Well, hi there.
Hey.
I was just wondering, those $1.1 million buses we bought,
Yeah. I
assume they're diesel. I wonder if they're running on biodiesel.
I hope so. They better be if they're in Iowa, that's for sure.
If he's pushing renewable energy, what an opportunity.
That's exactly right.
I'll tell you what, Congressman, I'm going to ask you to actually ask that question and get us the answer to that.
I will. Sure, we will find that out, okay? I will assure you.
Okay, and if you can have a member of your staff come back to me on email or text, that will be great. Thanks for the call, Ron. That was a good one. I enjoyed that. Let me go to Greg. Hi, Greg. This is you're on the Simon Conway Show. How you doing?
Yeah, thank you for taking my call, Simon. Congressman Latham, I'll challenge you now to propose what Simon just said, eliminating Social Security for people below 30 or 35. I'm 45, and that's not going to be part of my portfolio. I don't see it being around for me. But I think it's in the best interest of the country to eliminate it for those people
And what do you say to that?
Okay,
Would you go ahead and make a proposal?
Before I
No.
let the congressman answer that question, I just want to make it very, very clear that that is my proposal, because I don't want him getting hit by political ads from the opposition saying he said it. But now, of course, you've just given him the opportunity to say it, so let's see what he has to say.
No. And what we need to do to save it is to actually look actuarially long term. There's some things you can do that can save Social Security that are not that painful. We've got to look certainly at all generations. We have to understand with Medicare is probably it is a much more severe problem with the advent of the president's health care bill. The bankruptcy day for Medicare has gone from 2029 to 2024 just in 1 year because of the health care bill that was passed, because they cut $500 billion out of Medicare to fund a separate new entitlement for other people. And the seniors should be, if they're going to be upset, that's what they should be upset about, because Medicare is going to go bankrupt. That is the real problem that needs to be fixed immediately.
Of course, it is all in the same pot. I mean, you know, the president clearly blew up the whole safe deposit box thing and the padlock when he threatened to take it away if we didn't raise the debt ceiling. But would you go as far as to advocate for the ability for people to opt out of Social Security?
I don't think so. I think people have to stay in it now. What the proposal was several years ago that was demagogued a tremendous amount was that money would go into Social Security, and what like President Bush was talking about, to have a small portion of that actually go into an account with your name on it. Mm-hmm. People somehow believe that there's an account that has money sitting there under their name. Mm-hmm. It's not true. All there is a promise out there that if
That's
in
right.
fact you live long enough, you may get a check.
Greg,
there's no. If you die, there is nothing of value in that except a $240 death benefit to help bury you.
Well, my clock is ticking away. Greg, have you a very quick comeback, and then
Sure,
I've got
Greg.
one more question.
Yes, sir. I'm not a fan of Social Security. To me, it's the ultimate in socialism. Why not? I do want to support like the disabled, the mentally ill who can't take care of
All
themselves.
right. No statements. I just want to know if you had another question, because I got plenty of people that do, Greg. But thanks very much for your call.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Greg.
it. Let's see, Don, you've got to be real fast, Don.
Yes, for the Vietnam War, is Social Security ever going to get paid for that? Didn't President Johnson dip into that fund?
Well, what happened in 1968 and went into effect for fiscal year 1969 is when the federal government went to what they call a unified budget that included the Social Security Trust Fund, the Medicare Trust Fund, all of the other trust funds into one budget, so that it disguised the cost of that time of the Vietnam War. And that was to make the budget look like it was closer to being in balance. Mm-hmm. Up until before that, Social Security was always a separate account, separate trust fund. That's when it was put together, and it has never been put back separate. There's never been a lockbox since then.
Okay, well, I can't believe an hour has gone by, but it has.
I can't either.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll definitely have you back on the show, and enjoy the rest of the fair. That was Congressman Tom Latham, live on the Simon Conway Show. 284-1040, 800-469-4295. News Radio 1040 WHO.